Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the greatest entitled parent stories we read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled parents you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that if this video gets 1,000 likes, she won't try to speak to anyone's manager for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And become an official member of the Re-Army today, and I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming video. r/Entitled Parents. I get Karen sent to the principal's office. During my last few years of high school, I delivered newspapers every morning. The money wasn't great, but it was my first job. I really enjoyed the peace and quiet that comes with being awake before the sun rises. It was an enjoyable experience. However, there were downsides. For example, we had to go around once a month to collect payments, which was a real pain. If you can't get a customer to answer the door, they can't pay you. If a customer decided to simply stop paying you, there was nothing that you could do about it. The subscription could only be canceled by the customer themselves. So if someone decided not to pay you, the money was taken out of your earnings, and the delivery person was the one stuck with the bill. Unfortunately, this was extremely common. This would eventually become the reason I quit, since I could not afford to work 2 hours a day and not get paid for it. One morning, as I arrived home from finishing my route, my mother was extremely agitated. My boss had called and woke her up 15 minutes earlier because he had started receiving calls from the paper saying that several customers on a route connected to mine had called to say they had not received their paper, and that this had happened several times this week, so he had to fire the person on that route. He wanted to know if I could take over their route. The route was only about half the size of the route I was currently doing and would only add about 30 minutes a day to my trip, so I agreed to take it. The first week passes pretty uneventfully. One morning, during the second week of doing my new route, a few stops before I finish the route, as I am heading back over to my bike after hitting a string of houses, I can hear a woman's voice calling out, "Excuse me? Hey, you! Excuse me!" I turn around to see a woman. She's coming down the driveway in a t-shirt and in her drawers, holding a newspaper in one hand and using her free hand to try to pull the bottom of her shirt lower to preserve some sense of modesty. I recognize her as one of the substitute teachers at my high school. "Excuse me? What the heck is this?" she says, holding up the newspaper. I stood there, confused for a moment, before replying, "I'm sorry, Miss Karen, but I don't understand." She cuts me off. "I thought I already told you. If you guys are going to fire my daughter for being a little late one day, then I do not want your paper." Still a little confused. "I'm sorry, Miss Karen, but I have only had this route for a few days, and I am certain that I am not the person you spoke with. Maybe you spoke with Mr. Boss?" "Well, if you're not the person I spoke to, then how do you know my name?" she said, wearing her smuggest "I've got you now" face. "I'm one of your students. I've been going to the high school you teach at for 4 years. If you want to cancel your subscription, you have to call the number. I can't cancel it for you." This obviously wasn't what she wanted to hear. She got really calm for a second and looked at me in the eyes and said, "You think you're really smart, don't you?" I called my boss when I got home to tell him what happened and that she wanted her subscription canceled. He told me that when he had called to fire her daughter, Karen had picked up the phone and screamed the same thing at him, and that he had also told her that she needed to call the subscription line if she wanted her service canceled, and that the teenage paperboy could not cancel the subscription for her. He also said that when Karen's daughter accepted the job, her mom told her that she would be away for every second weekend at her father's and would not be able to deliver the Saturday and Sunday papers, and that her mom would deliver them. The next Saturday, I received an updated subscription list and checked if her address was still on it. It turned out she still hadn't called the line to cancel, so I had no choice but to keep delivering the paper. This continued for a few more months until I was finally able to convince my boss to cancel her paper due to non-payment. One morning on a weekday, I accidentally slept in until about 4:30 a.m., which meant I had to rush to get them all delivered before 6:30, which is the cutoff time before a paper can be considered late. I delivered Karen's paper around 6:15, which, once again, is near the end of my route. This time, Karen comes running out, wearing pants this time, and starts yelling at me about how the paper is late and that she is going to call the paper and get me fired, just like they did to her daughter for being a little late one time. I tried to explain that her paper, while arriving a little later than I normally deliver it, is still not past the cutoff time, and that her paper is only guaranteed to be in her mailbox before 6:30, and she, of course, in typical Karen fashion, was having none of it. "You can't talk your way out of this one. You're going to be so fired." And she runs back into the house, laughing to herself. About 2 minutes later, I am sitting in class waiting for first period to start, and who should walk in to teach the class that day but Miss Karen. She has barely taken 2 steps into the class when she spots me and begins shaking her finger in my direction. "Nuh-uh. No, not you. You go to the office, now." My entire class is baffled for 2 reasons. The first reason being that I was a pretty good kid and didn't get in trouble often, and the second reason being that it happened so quickly after her walking into the room that I couldn't have even had the time to misbehave in any way, shape, or form. I arrive at the principal's office and check in with the secretary. She asks why I was in the office and not in class. "Look, Miss Nice Secretary, I know every kid who gets sent to the office probably says this, but I honestly didn't do anything wrong." I then explained what happened between myself and Karen earlier considering the paper route, and that this was about something that happened outside of school, during non-school hours. She looks at me slightly confused, and then she nods at another girl sitting in the waiting room and asks if I know who she is. I didn't. I hadn't seen her before. She was a pretty girl, maybe 2 years younger than me, with short bleach blonde hair, wearing a band tee with the sleeves cut off, and what had to be at least 10 bracelets on each wrist. I can't remember the band, but it was probably some 90s punk band. The fact that she had been crying was obvious. Her makeup had been running, and her face was red. I was sent to sit with her in the waiting area. She was sat on the furthest right with 2 seats to her left. I followed etiquette and took the seat on the left. As we sat there waiting to speak to the principal, she would periodically play with her bracelets and rings, which is how I caught a glimpse of the fresh purple bruise around her wrist. The principal's door opens and the secretary whispers something to him, which causes him to glance at me. "Mr. Gregg, could you come in here, please?" Now, pretty girl's eyes lit up with recognition as if she knows who I am. And it's at this point my foolish teenage self realizes that there is something bigger going on than me being kicked out of physics before the class even starts. The principal asks me what happened, and I explain to the best of my ability what had happened that morning. He thanked me and asked me to have a seat again. When I came out, the girl was gone. The principal asked the secretary if there was another teacher available with a free period. She said, "Yes, Miss Math teacher is free right now. Should I page her?" "Yes, please." The math teacher escorts me back to class and tells Miss Karen that she needs to go to the principal's office. We spend the rest of the class with a free period. I never see Miss Karen again, and as far as I know, that was the end of the story. Until a few years later, pretty girl ended up dating one of my friends, and I finally got to hear the rest of the story. Pretty girl was Karen's daughter, and her parents were getting a divorce. Karen was a drunk. Apparently, she had been the one to get her daughter the paper route because she thought having that job would mean her daughter would have to be at the house every night and never at her father's. Pretty girl had tried the paper route and living with her mom for a while, but being the mean drunk that she was, things deteriorated pretty quickly, and pretty girl wanted to go stay with her dad. When she did, there was no one to deliver that paper, and that's why she was fired. Not because they were a little late, but because around 50 newspapers had not been delivered several days in a row. Without the paper job, Karen had lost her imagined bargaining chip and was upset, which is why she decided I was public school enemy number one, even though all I had done was accept more work. She thought getting me fired from a paper route I had been doing without complaint for 3 years would mean that her daughter would get the job back again. She had called the paper to complain about me, and despite them having probably told her that her paper was not late, she decided to drive over to Pretty Girl's dad's house and give her the good news that she was getting her job back and give her a lift to school. Pretty Girl had told her mom that she did not want the job or the lift, and she was not supposed to come over when her dad was not there. Karen didn't like that and dragged Pretty Girl by her arm to the car. Pretty Girl went straight to the office when classes started and asked them to call her dad. He had picked her up while she was in the principal's office. Apparently, what I told the principal was enough to corroborate Pretty Girl's story, which gave the principal what he needed to speak to the union and have her removed from my school's roster until Pretty Girl graduated. That morning's event had also been a deciding factor in her dad getting full custody. This time, Karen did not get the kids. Next we've got, woman mistakes me for an employee and throws a tantrum. Recently, I went to a grocery store. The store is a popular chain in my area. Most of the employees wear reddish polo shirts with black aprons or vests over them. Some just wear unbranded dress shirts or have dress codes unique to their department, like the coat worn by people in the meat department. I was wearing a black polo with a small logo for my OT clinic. This must have confused one of the other customers. I was picking up some ingredients for a bake sale going on at the grade school my girls attend. My wife was not only the organizer, she was baking 4 items to include in the sale. Since she was at home preparing cookies and brownies, I was sent to get more essentials like sugar and frosting. In the baking aisle, I was kneeling down to reach the large bags of sugar that are always on the bottom shelf. I was reaching towards the back of the bottom shelf since there weren't many bags left. While doing this, I was being careful not to overexert my right hand since I recently had to get stitches and it still hurt. Cut it with a razor while helping to set up a neighborhood haunted house. That's when I heard a high-pitched voice say, "I'll find it myself." I thought the voice was unnecessarily loud, but didn't really give it a second thought as I grabbed the bag and lifted it up to my cart. I placed it on the handle on top of my cart for a moment to give my hand a rest when a woman grabbed the bag off of my cart, put it in her own, and said, "Great, I don't have to go looking for it now." It was the same voice, and before I could react, she happily walked away and was out of sight as soon as she turned at the end of the aisle. There was nothing for me to do but bend down again and start the process over to get the last bag of sugar. After getting butter and eggs from the back of the store, I went through the condiments aisle to get to the front. The moment I entered the aisle, I saw the woman. I wanted to see if she would say anything as I walked by, but she was occupied with another customer. "Sir!" The woman's voice was so loud and piercing, it made me stop in my tracks for a moment. "Could you help me reach the ketchup? I need ketchup." She pointed to the top shelf that held the larger sizes of ketchup bottles. She didn't see me yet. She was speaking to an elderly gentleman who was walking with the aid of a cane. "They're too far back," the woman exclaimed. "I wish I could help you," the man replied, "but I don't think I'll have any more luck than you." The man wasn't much taller than the woman. "But I can't reach the ketchup, and I need it." Fearing that she would not leave the man alone, I stepped in. "I'll get the ketchup for you, ma'am." Reaching up was much easier than getting under a shelf. I could easily use my left hand to grab a bottle for the lady. She looked over her shoulder at me and then turned back to the gentleman. "Let the employee get it." Again, her voice was loud, as if she were trying to speak over some ambient noise that only she could hear. "I'm not an employee, ma'am." The lady turned around to face me. "But I need some ketchup." "I'll help you get the ketchup." "Do you work here?" "No," I replied. "Why do you want the ketchup?" "I don't want any ketchup. I'm trying to help you." "I need ketchup." She pointed to the top shelf again. "I know," I said, failing to hide the frustration in my voice. I had to reach over her outstretched arm, but I grabbed the bottle that she appeared to be pointing at. I tried to hand the bottle to her, but she looked at it in my hand and said, "That's not big enough. I need the big ketchup." I sighed and put the bottle back before picking up a 64-ounce bottle. "The lid is on top," the woman whined. "What?" I asked, thoroughly confused. "The lid is on the top of the ketchup. I need the ketchup with the lid on the bottom." "You said you wanted the big one. There are only two choices, a 64-ounce bottle with the lid on top or a 32-ounce bottle with an inverted lid." "I need the big ketchup with the lid on the bottom." I summoned patience I didn't know that I had. "Perhaps you should get two of the 32-ounce bottles with the lid on the bottom." I put the larger bottle back and picked up the inverted ketchup bottle. When I held the bottle out for her to take, she just stared at it. So I put it in her cart, next to the large bag of sugar, and grabbed a second bottle. This one she took from me. "I need the big ketchup." This time, the woman really yelled, "This isn't the big ketchup! I need the big ketchup!" She drew the attention of the entire store, including several employees that curiously looked from the end of the aisle. "I'm sorry," I said. "I don't think I can help you with your ketchup problem anymore." "I'm sorry," I said. "I don't think I can help you with your ketchup problem anymore." As I reached for my card, the woman threw the bottle of ketchup at me. I reacted by deflecting it away with my sutured hand. "Ah!" I exclaimed in pain. The bottle went flying into the shelf on the opposite side of the ketchup display with a loud cracking sound. Ketchup sprayed all over the products on the shelf. The lid of the bottle had cracked and broke off on impact. "What's going on here?" A woman who appeared to be the manager stepped up from behind the other employees. "He doesn't work here," the obnoxious woman yelled. "Ma'am, calm down," the manager said, trying to get the lady to quiet down. "Tell me." "He acts like he works here." The woman started pointing at me. "He doesn't work here. Employees should help the customers. He doesn't work here." I tried to ignore the lady and inspected my hand. It was painful, but no serious damage. "No, he doesn't work here," the manager said calmly. "He followed me through the store and pretended to work here." "That's not true," the elderly gentleman spoke up. "He offered to help her. He explained that he doesn't work here after she asked him." "He kept trying to give me the wrong ketchup." To everyone's relief, the woman was now speaking at her normal volume. The man with the cane continued. "That man was being as helpful as he could. She wasn't being reasonable." The manager saw me looking at my hand. "Are you hurt?" "I'll be fine," I replied. "I'm sorry for the mess." One of the other employees stepped close to the manager and spoke in a low voice. "That woman threw a bottle at him. We all saw it." "That's true," the old man added. "Take him and his stuff to customer service and wait for me," the manager told the employee. "If he needs anything for his hand, get it for him." The employee took hold of my cart and asked me to follow him. As I left the aisle, the woman asked, "Are you kicking him out?" "No," the manager replied. At the customer service desk up front, I asked for ice for my hand, and the employees promptly provided it. The customer service clerk asked us what happened. "I don't know," I started to explain. He should be kicked out for pretending to work here." The loud, shrill voice could be heard through the store. A moment later, the elderly man with the cane walked up to the front of the store and sat on a bench near the customer service desk. "That woman is crazy," he said, when two cops came into the store and followed an employee to the condiments aisle. "I have to call my wife," I said. "I'm supposed to get this stuff for the bake sale to her, and it looks like this might take a while." "Is that the school bake sale?" the customer service clerk asked. "Yes," I said as I made the call. "You know it?" "My daughter goes to that school." "Really? My wife is organizing the bake sale." At this point, the call connects and my wife picks up. I tried to explain what happened and that it might take longer than expected before I'm home. However, I had to cut my call short when one of the police officers started asking me questions. He asked me a few questions to get my side of the events. I told him everything, including what happened with the sugar. The manager arrived at customer service while I was talking to the officer. Once he was done, she said, "We're going to issue you a gift card for the value of the items in your cart." "That isn't really necessary," I said. "It wasn't your fault." "Are you sure?" The manager seemed disappointed. The clerk spoke up. "This stuff is for the school bake sale. His wife is the organizer." "Well, why don't you consider it a donation then?" the manager suggested. "Plus, I think we can donate some custom-baked goods from our bakery." "That would be great." "Have your wife call me as soon as possible. We'll work something out." The clerk and the employee that got ice for me rang up my items, asked if I needed anything else, and issued a gift card for just over the amount of my total, and I used it to pay for the groceries. They gave me the card, which had less than $5 left. During that time, the cop interviewed the old man. When he was done, the old man asked, "What happened to that lady?" "She's been banned from the store," the manager said coldly, and walked away with the officer. We both watched as the second officer escorted the lady out of the store as the manager and first officer followed. Next we've got more church lady stories. It was Halloween in 2017. I was back from trick-or-treating when I heard the doorbell ring. It was a woman from the church and her son. Entitled kid, "Trick or treat." Me, passes him like 2 big handfuls of candy. Note, we live very far out in the country, so we don't get a ton of trick-or-treaters. Entitled mom, "Give him some more candy. He is hungry." Me, "Sorry, but some of my cousins will be stopping by later, and I want all of them to be able to have some." I have a pretty big family, 9 aunts and uncles, 37 cousins. About 20 of them had yet to drop by. Several of them are in the 4 to 8 age range, so if they didn't get candy, things could get ugly. Entitled mom, "My entitled kid is a good boy. He deserves more candy." Stomps foot like a 5-year-old. Me, "I'm sorry, I just can't give you any more." Entitled mom glances over my shoulder and sees my stockpile of candy from trick-or-treating. "You have more than enough candy to share with entitled kid." Not wanting to make this woman the spookiest part of my night, I comply and give her son the candy I can't eat. I'm allergic to eggs, so Milky Ways and 3 Musketeers are not the best for me. "He needs more." At that point, she tried to grab the bowl of candy. She missed, and I shut the door in her face. Winter of 2017. I was asleep. It was 4:30 a.m. Suddenly, I woke to a scraping sound at the church. I was upset as I had school that morning. I look out of my window and see a snowplow at the church. It was scraping the snow off the gravel parking lot. The whole half an inch of snow we got. At 4:30 a.m., my parents went over to the church and complained, but it was some guy who had been hired by a churchwoman. He finished up as quickly as possible. I went back to sleep. At 5 a.m., a church lady came to the church and began blowing all of the remaining snow off of the lot with a leaf blower. Spring 2017. The church got remodeled. Church ladies over there 24/7 hammering, sawing, pounding, 24/7. After they finished, after 6 months of work, they installed lights. The lights turn on at 10:30 p.m. and turn off at 3:30 a.m. The lights light up our house more than the church. My mom shot them out with a BB gun. Summer 2019. Church ladies/kids tried to steal my cats. They knew they were mine. They all failed, thank goodness. Summer 2019. Vacation Bible school at the church. I was sitting in my house playing video games when I hear voices in the backyard. I ignore them at first, since my neighbors come over to play with my little brother all the time. But soon I hear more voices. I get up and look outside to find roughly 12 little kids running around in my yard. I was home all alone. I go outside and ask where they came from. They all blow raspberries or ignore me. Then I see a woman leading another kid to my backyard. She sees me and looks horrified. Me, "What are you doing?" Entitled mom, I thought no one was home. I figured if no one was here, the kids could play in your yard." Before I could even say a word, a boy comes around back with my cat, Rex. He is holding him around the neck, which immediately upset me. Rex is the nicest boy. Rex seems to know that kids don't know any better, so he just goes limp when they pick him up. Suddenly, the kid begins trying to rip out his whiskers. You know how I said Rex was nice? He had had enough bullcrap. Rex is the nicest, but also the most muscular cat. He whips around and scratches that kid clear across the face. The kid drops him. Rex runs to me and I pick him up. Entitled Mom. Your cat just scratched that boy. Because he was pulling on his whiskers. The kid surprisingly moves on with life. He is wandering away. Me. You need to get the kids back over to the church. They can't be here. Fine. We don't want to be here anyway. Entitled Mom calls all the kids. As they go back across the road, however, I notice 5 of them holding something. Kittens. 2-week-old kittens. I run over to them and put on my best "I don't want to hurt you" voice. Hey, those are mine. Can you please give them back? 4 of the kids look scared and hand them over. But one kid, finders keepers. That kitten needs her mother to survive. So what? I want it. I was so done. I pried open his hands and took the kittens back. I found their mother, Daisy, frantically searching for them. That's all the stories I have. Entitled Family arrives late to restaurant, demands Wi-Fi, insults my great-grandparents, and end up paying 20 times the price of the menu. Good morning, Reddit. Just allow me a few disclaimers before I start. First, have in mind that this story takes place in the north of Spain. Therefore, I will try to give the necessary context so the cultural barrier is as little as possible. Second, that this is my first post in this community. Third, I'm Spanish, so please forgive me for any orthographic or grammatical mistakes. However, feel free to point them out to me if you want. This got longer than I expected. Now, let's get started. First of all, I will give out some context, so feel free to skip this and go directly to the story. This took place a couple of years ago when I was 17, and I used to spend part of my summers helping in my grandpa's restaurant. The restaurant was located in the bottom floor of our family house in a little village, 30 inhabitants, and my great-grandparents, the parents of my mom's mom, lived in the upper floor. In the restaurant, my great-grandmother and my grandma were in charge of cooking, and my great-grandparents and granddad were in charge of attending the tables. It was kind of small, as it had like 8 tables of 4 on the inside, and we could set another 2 outside if the weather was good. As the restaurant also served as a bar, it was filled with locals, and as many of them were retired, they used to spend the whole day playing cards and drinking. So although it was a small location, in summer, usually it was full of people. Also, please have in mind that my great-grandparents founded this restaurant in the year 1941. Therefore, it was well known and had a good reputation among the locals. I'm also proud to say that my great-grandparents were very loved in their community, as they really were great people. Although it was quite a remote place, in summer we used to get like 4 or 5 groups of tourists per week, and the rule was that my brother and I were in charge of serving their tables, as we were the only ones who knew any other language than Spanish. Our opening hours at the time were from 12 to 22:30, but the kitchen was only open from 1300 to 1500 and from 1930 to 2100. We only served one menu, composed by a starter, 2 main dishes, dessert, and cider or water, 10 euros. So now for the story. For convenience, I will use the following abbreviations. We have entitled Mother, entitled Father, spoiled kid, who was 7, and we've got great-grandparent and me. It was around 1600. Therefore, most of the customers had finished eating and were chatting over a cup of coffee. My grandparents and great-grandparents were still eating as they waited until everyone was finished. Therefore, my brother and I were in charge of serving the tables just in case anyone wanted something else to drink. Suddenly, we hear a car outside, and I can hear a woman speaking loudly in English. As soon as they enter, this happens. Entitled Mom. We would like to have a table. X from the Y Hotel told us this was a great place to eat. Me. I'm sorry, ma'am, but the kitchen is already closed, as it's kinda late. Yes, it's late, because we got lost on these roads. Is it so difficult to put proper signals? Also, we have a little kid that is hungry. Me. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Let me check if I can do something for you. I then went inside and explained the situation to my grandma, who told me to attend them as everything was already prepared and it would be just heating the food. Entitled Mom. Well, are you going to give us a table or not? If the kitchen is closed, how is it that those people are eating? Pointing at my grandparents. At the moment, I thought she was behaving like that because she was kind of hungry, and I wasn't really used to dealing with rude people, as the majority of tourists seem to be really respectful. Me: well, those are the owners, so they can eat whenever they want. I said this while laughing a bit. Anyway, I have just asked them, and you will be able to eat too. So please follow me to your table. They follow me to the table, and I explain to them that there is only one menu. They give me a strange look, but they seem okay with that. I serve them the bread, and I put a bottle of water on the table. They start devouring the bread, so they were a bit rude because they were hungry theory seemed to be confirmed. As soon as I bring the starter, entitled father demands to have the Wi-Fi password. Entitled father: hey, we have seen that there is a Wi-Fi network. What is the password? Me: yes, there is one. However, the Wi-Fi is for the staff personal use. We had a measured and really slow connection that had like 5 gigabytes of data, which my grandpa used for checking some newspapers and my brother and I used for sending WhatsApps to our friends. Entitled father: that's BS. We are paying customers and we deserve to have access to your Wi-Fi. Entitled mom: yes, our little angel wants to watch some videos. We don't have any kind of internet access here. Me: sorry, but as I have said, it's for personal use. That's not right. This would be unacceptable in America. Me: well, I'm sorry to inform you that we are not in America. The entitled mom tells something to the spoiled kid, and then he starts running around the restaurant, stomping his feet and shouting. My great-grandparent comes to me and asks me what is happening. I explain the whole situation to him, and he asks me to please translate what he is going to say. Grandparent: please, lady, control your child, or I will have to ask you 3 to leave. Entitled mom: don't you dare tell me how to raise my child, you dinosaur. Entitled father: don't get close to my kid, you old creep. By this point, everyone is of course looking with disbelief at these morons. I doubt for a second, but translate all of this to Gigi, expecting a not really nice reaction. Instead of saying anything, he slowly turns around and asks 2 men who are sitting on a table to take the whole family out of his restaurant. I proceed to explain to the family that if they don't get out, those 2 men, who also happened to be 2 guardias civiles, like rural police forces, would be taking them out. They don't seem to believe that those 2 men were policemen, and they refused to leave until we served them. Finally, both men stood up, showed their plaques, and asked them, in their best English, to leave. Entitled mother, entitled father, and spoiled kid finally stand up and leave. However, as they were leaving, the policemen realized that they had parked in front of our garage, blocking it, and a zone signaled as a no parking zone. So they decided to ask for their rental car papers while taking a couple of photos and giving them a €200 fine for blocking a private property garage. Okay, this ended up being far longer than I expected. On my behalf, I have to say that I have family in the USA, and that all Americans I have met in the USA are really nice people. So please don't take this as an American bashing post. I hope you all have a good day. Next we've got, you wasted our time. Give us free stuff. Yeah, so this story ends with triumph for the entitled parents, not the poor people that had to deal with them. Could probably also count as choosing beggars, but it's here because my siblings' birthdays was the main subject used to manipulate the people at customer service. Cast: we've got my entitled manipulative grandma. We've got my entitled mother. We've got entitled sister, she's 12. We've got oblivious sister, she's 11. We've got oblivious brother, he's 9. And we've got me, I'm 18. So about a year ago, my family and I went on a road trip around America, something I've mentioned in more detail a lot in my other posts. We ended up in Florida for 3 weeks doing the theme parks, Disney World and Universal Studios most notably. This fell perfectly in line with OS and OB's birthdays on the 21st and 28th of October, exactly a week apart. For OB, we went to Legoland. The incident that happened there I have detailed in another post, but for OS, we went to Disney World Animal Kingdom. For a little context, we pre-ordered the wristbands you need to use your fast passes well before the trip and got them on our first day at the parks in Magic Kingdom. Unfortunately, there was an issue and we had to get that sorted out, which took about an hour. We were given free fast passes for our troubles, and that should have been it. But no. Entitled Grandma and Entitled Mom realized they could use this to their benefit and concocted a plan to get more free stuff. And sadly, it worked. I say sadly because it means that they learned no lesson and got away with it, meaning they'll undoubtedly do it again in the future as it worked before. But I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy the free things we got, even if I did feel guilty for being complicit. So the first part of the plan was to screw up our fast passes and get more. We basically ended up with double for one ride, and so one of our wristbands had an issue again. I'm not entirely sure whether or not they did something to it. They got the band fixed and ended up exchanging the double up for a universal free pass. Basically, it allowed us to get on any ride instead of a specific one. Then part 2. This time, they screwed with the passes we needed to present along with scanning the wristbands in order to get into the park. Entitled Grandma and Entitled Mom forced us, me. The others were happy to go along with it, to lie, and we ended up at customer service again, where Entitled Grandma really started laying it on thick. Entitled Mom isn't a charismatic manipulator like Entitled Grandma, so she opted to wait outside. I went in initially, but couldn't stay for the thing because it was just so wrong. Entitled Grandma told my 3 siblings to start crying and look upset. Entitled Sister needed no convincing and is rather manipulative in her own right. Oblivious Sister and Oblivious Brother were happy to do so as well because they were excited to get the rides Entitled Grandma had promised them if they did. This whole thing providing them with a lesson in how to manipulate, which is why I walked out. I couldn't watch them lay it on thick about all the problems Disney had given us. I wanted to say something, but I knew that if I had, they would have been furious at me for ruining their plan, and it would have made my life on that road trip even more miserable. If that was even possible. Call me selfish, but I didn't want another screaming match with my mother to ruin Oblivious Sister's birthday. So Entitled Grandma came out triumphant and bragged about getting free fast passes to the new Avatar ride, notoriously all ready for usually having a 2 to 3 hour line wait on average. Entitled Mom patted Entitled Grandma on the back and expressed how proud she was of the kids for their acting skills. We went about our day in Epcot, and they were all in good spirits for the day, and they knew they had the best ride for the OS's birthday the next day. I had an awful time, as I did end up getting into a fight later in the day with Entitled Grandma over something stupid that hadn't even been my fault, so it turns out my silence was wasted. It wasn't until we got back to our accommodation that Entitled Mom realized that Entitled Grandma could have gotten something better than the free passes and had her get on the phone to try to negotiate an exchange of the passes for tickets to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween, something that would have cost us well over $1,000. And of course, she succeeded. She got the tickets, and we're going to go the next night, giving Oblivious Sister an amazing birthday night as well as day. But it doesn't end there. Turns out that once the passes were generated, they went back into circulation instead of disappearing after we switched. When Entitled Mom found this out, she booked the passes again, and so we got both the Avatar ride and the Mickey's Halloween tickets for free. Again, I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy the ride or all the free candy I collected at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween, but I still know how wrong this was, and my siblings' takeaway from all this is that lying and manipulation is the way to get what you want, something that Entitled Sister uses frequently with full knowledge of what she's doing, and Oblivious Sister and Oblivious Brother do now without fully grasping that that's not the right way to do things. Next we've got, I sabotaged your truck, so you owe me money. That title doesn't begin to summarize the insanity I'm about to detail. The twists and turns here are innumerable, all thanks to a very special customer. In fact, I think I'd better give him a name. He's earned it. Let's call him Spectaculoid. This is at a popular truck and trailer rental place. You know the one. Spectaculoid rents our biggest truck, says he's going to need it for 3 days. Awkward, because this truck was in high demand at the time, but he insisted and we shuffled things around to make it happen. Got super clear about the return time. Okay, drive safe. Except Spectaculoid wants to leave his car on our lot. for 3 days. Dude, we fill up constantly and tell people to park across the street, so if you could just move it, and he leaves it on our lot. Uncomfortably close to the side door too, so that we spend the next several days having to squeeze by his bumper. Fine, whatever. 3 days later, Spectaculoid calls and my coworker Andy answers. Andy's been given his 2 weeks notice for a laundry list of screw-ups, one of which cost us all a Christmas bonus, a story for another day. But he figured if he did a really good job, he could get the manager to change her mind. So Spectaculoid asks for an extra day. "No problem, sir," Andy says. The family who reserved that truck for the afternoon are now screwed. Nice work. We figure out Andy's mistake when the family arrives and, after calling Spectaculoid and him flat out refusing to bring the truck back, "Nuh-uh," he said, "I could have it." We make some phone calls and find a canceled reservation for a replacement truck, so at least that worked out. But we're looking forward to getting that truck back the next day. It's going nuts around here. Everybody wants a truck. Next day, Spectaculoid calls again. He wants to extend the rental again because his friends didn't show up to help him unload. Dude, come on. It's a 1-bedroom apartment. Most people take 6 hours to move. You've had 4 days, including that extra one. You are neither elderly nor infirm. Empty the truck and get it back here. "But all my stuff is in there." "So empty it, now." "Okay, I'll try." "No, seriously. It's officially late in an hour and it needs to be here then. There's no way to extend the contract, and keeping it longer is theft." "Oh, okay. Okay, I'll bring it back." Does he drive it back? Of course not. In fact, things are just about to kick into high gear. A little while later, I hear my manager yell at Andy. "Tell him to call roadside assistance." Andy's on the phone with you-know-who. Spectaculoid is claiming the truck won't start, and Andy was just about to extend the rental. Luckily, this time, he doesn't get the chance. Now, a truck not starting isn't unusual. People leave the headlights on by accident all the time. Easy to forget things like that with an unfamiliar vehicle. That's why we plaster the number for free roadside assistance all over everything. Spectaculoid, having agreed to give them a call, wants a storage unit for free for the inconvenience. Manager takes over and, smelling a rat, tells him to hold while she searches his name in our storage system. What do you know? Spectaculoid already has a storage unit with us, and he's overdue. "Well, you would have had the truck back days ago if I had a bigger unit to store all my stuff." Huh? Does not compute. For some reason, we end up down this weird rabbit hole where he talks about how he intended to load up the truck and dump everything in his storage unit. Okay? I don't care. Anyway, no deal, and we tell Spectaculoid to hurry up and call roadside assistance to get that truck back tonight. He argues that he doesn't want to, but he has no other ideas here. He just wants to keep that truck forever, apparently. Some arguing, raised voices, legal threats. Fine, he'll call. Oh, you think we're going to get that truck back now, right? Hang tight, kids. This party gets bumpy. See, when you call our roadside assistance, you get a dispatcher. The dispatcher sends out a tow truck. The tow truck driver calls the customer to arrange the specifics on time and place. Spectaculoid is suddenly not answering his phone. The tow truck driver calls us and asks for the alternate number. No answer there either. So we try calling and texting and emailing. Nope. Spectaculoid is suddenly completely unreachable. Around 24 hours later, it occurs to us that he has our numbers blocked. We try using our cell phones instead. "Hello?" My glorious manager unleashes her righteous fury. "You will unblock our phone numbers and stop avoiding us. You will call roadside immediately, and you will do whatever is asked of you to get the truck back now." Spectaculoid agrees, but not without some grumbling. Next call we get is from roadside. They are losing their crap. List of complaints include: 1. The truck is jammed between 2 buildings, and he's not sure how it is physically possible that Spectaculoid got it in there. The sides are almost touching. 2. And there's no conceivable reason he would have jammed it in there. It made loading/unloading the back impossible, and it's not like it was a hiding place. It just plain doesn't make any sense. 3. and he can't even get in the truck. The doors won't open. He can't figure out how Spectaculoid got out of the driver's seat once he parked it. 4. And the superintendent is screaming at the tow truck driver the whole time because he wants it out now, now, now. Apparently, he's been fining Spectaculoid over $100 a day to get it out of there. 5. And the driver needed to leave to get a special winch to pull it out of there, which sent the superintendent into a total hysterical fit. 6. And when he got it out to the road and climbed in to try starting it, he saw that Spectaculoid had ripped the starter out of the engine and left it on the floor. As the layers of confusion and utter bafflement wash over us, we arrange for the truck to be towed to our lot with the back facing the storage unit so it can be unloaded ASAP. Okay, we call Spectaculoid. Hey, so why the heck did you rip the starter out of the engine?
Oh, that? Well, I figured I had to in order to get roadside to come out.
What? But that doesn't make any...
Oh, also, I've had to take a lot of cabs to and from work.
And?
Well, I think I should be compensated.
Why?
Well, because the truck wasn't working.
Setting aside the fact that you did that yourself, why didn't you just get your car from our lot?
Oh, it doesn't work.
We deny his request for days of cab fare. So now you're thinking, hey, at least it's all finally settled, right? Well, there's still several days of procrastination until he unloads his truck into the storage unit, and the massive repair bill, which also covers a big fresh gash along the top of the truck from scraping against the building. And the last fun thing, Andy's final contribution to the saga. Spectaculoid was allowed to move into the storage unit without the usual deposit, and while he has spoken on the phone with us about it, he's been carefully avoiding coming by while we're open to avoid making the payment. So all his stuff is locked up until he pays. If we don't get a paycheck, it'll all go to auction next month. Last time we saw him was on a security camera. See, we noticed his car was finally gone, so we checked the recording. At 1 a.m., a van pulls up. Spectaculoid gets out of the passenger seat, hops into the car, and drives off. The car suddenly works. It's a Christmas miracle. I can't believe I'm not making any of this up. Update. Thank you for all your kind words. I've posted about Andy before, so check my history. And more about him will be coming tonight or tomorrow, depending on how nuts things get. Also, thanks for the gold. I really appreciate it. Update 2. 18 hours after original post. A coworker just took a look at this, and it reminded me of 2 things. A. The truck had a tire with the air let out, and another with a bolt stuck in it. This complicated towing with a drawback and stretched events out a bit. B. Spectaculoid had also disconnected both battery cables. These are pretty significant details and, on their own, would have been story. But I swear to God, I completely forgot about them. Honestly, if I hadn't run into the tow truck driver the other day, I might have forgotten about this whole thing. There's probably a lesson in that somewhere. Entitled mom hits my car and blames me. I apologize, but I am writing this on mobile, yada 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 yada, sorry for mistakes. So, a little background. I have a really nice gray Land Cruiser that looks like a monster truck, and it costs a lot of money. Not because of the car itself, but mostly the parts inside of it. I live in a pretty good neighborhood, but it happens to be right next to the most busy road in my area. Also, I'm not old enough to drink, so I've never drank in my life, unless I was at church. So, let's meet the cast. We've got entitled mom. Horrifying excuse for a mom. We've got entitled kid. Not really playing a part in this story. We've got police officer, aka my guardian angel. And we've got me, most lucky guy in the world. Alright, let's start. So I get a message from my coworker saying that there is a problem at work, and I'd better come over. I work at a computer repair shop, so if there's a problem where they have to call me in, it's usually $100 or $1,000 problem that requires most hands on deck. So I get out of my house, get in my Land Cruiser, and drive off in a bit of a rush. A few minutes pass, and I'm about 3 miles away from work. I stop at a red light in this really busy intersection on the most busy road in the entire country. There are car crashes here almost every other day. One time, it happened twice in one day. So it is no surprise that I got into one at this intersection. So the light turned green, and I was in a rush, so I was well in front of the cars beside me. Then, just as I'm about to clear the intersection, a big red minivan T-bones me, and we both go sliding in different directions. Me, not as much, because my car is much heavier than hers. I almost passed out because of shock and looked out my window to see who hit me. I get out of my car, and it is in pretty bad shape. There's a huge dent right next to the passenger side door, and the glass is broken on the mirror. Luckily, nothing else that is visible. Enter entitled mom and entitled kid. Entitled mom.
What were you doing? Trying to drive ahead like that on a red light? You could have hurt me or my baby in that crash, and we have a very important birthday to go to.
Me. I'm sorry, but it was a green light for me, not for you, and I had the right of way. Entitled mom, in a quiet, accusatory tone.
No, you didn't have the right of way. We had the right of way, not you.
Me. Explain to me how you had the right of way.
I don't have to explain to you, you drunk jerk.
Once again, I'm not old enough to drink and never even have in my life.
Are you going to pay for my car, or what?
Her car, the red minivan, looks almost like the front of it was blown up, then rammed by 100 bulls and a couple wrecking balls. I'm honestly surprised they even survived, because the driver's seat headrest was impaled by a piece of metal. Satan is most likely protecting his spawn from any harm so that she can be the biggest Karen this world has ever seen. No. You are going to pay for it, along with the damage you did to my car. This was the wrong thing to say.
Excuse me, you drunk jerk. You honestly think I'm going to pay for your crappy truck that you and your drinking buddy probably pulled out of a trash pile?
Me. Yes, jerk.
How dare you treat me like that in front of my kid? My darling should never be exposed to your potty mouth. Your mother probably left you because you were the most ugly piece of crap in the whole family of 20 kids, and the orphanage that you currently live in got tired of your BS, so they gave you $100 to go buy this piece of crap lump of metal with wheels.
Me, angry as heck. That's it. I'm calling the cops if someone hasn't already done so. Entitled kid. Mommy, please stop harassing him. He's done nothing wrong. Entitled mom.
He's done everything wrong.
About 10 minutes later of yelling, 3 cop cars pull up and an ambulance. Police officer.
Excuse me, sir. What happened here?
Me. Well, I was entitled mom.
It was horrible, officer. This man was drunk.
Once again, I'm not old enough.
And ran a red light, which was clearly visible, and almost hurt me and my baby.
Me. That's not true, officer. This woman is clearly lying to you. You can see that I'm sober, and there were a ton of witnesses to the accident and what ensued, and they can tell you that she is in the wrong. Police officer.
Well, I might as well check both of you and the security cameras.
There were security cameras at the intersection that recorded everything. Entitled mom, clearly seeing that she was going to get caught.
Oh, there's no need for doing that. We will just exchange info and...
Police officer.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but it is required that I know what happened and which of you was in the wrong. So we will be watching the cam footage together.
The police officer found the accident and saw that entitled mom was clearly running a red light, and she was speeding by at least 20 miles over the limit. The limit was 50. He then checks us both with a breathalyzer, and I am completely sober. But she, sorry, couldn't remember the exact number, was the equivalent of, quoting the police officer, having both eyes closed and driving with your feet drunk. They even found a bottle of it in the passenger side seat half empty. However, the best part is still yet to come. Turns out she was never going to a birthday party. She was actually leaving the city. Oh, why you ask? Because turns out she had 3 pouches of drugs, probably maybe $2,000 worth in her trunk. Does it end there? No, 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 no. She was packing heat, and quite a bit from my state. That's right. The police found weapons in her car. Combine all of that, and you get $5,600 in repairs to my car and a couple thousand more or reprimands, 10.5 years in prison, 3 years on probation, and plenty of parenting classes. Not to mention the several $100 speeding ticket she received before they found the things she had in her car.
Entitled kid was sent to his father, who actually divorced his mother because of this kind of stuff. Personally, I wouldn't even call that waste of human potential a mother. Sorry that this story's a little long. I wanted to list every detail possible. My car is now fully repaired, and me and the police officer are good friends now and talk about this incident often. Thank you for reading. Edit. Alright, just because I forgot to say this in original post. Thank God none of the expensive parts in my car were damaged. The engine was fine, the suspension was perfect, and the springs were intact. Another edit. Also, the reason the kid was with the mom, even after the divorce, is because she was illegally taking him with her. I don't know what she got for that, but I know it's bad. Also, if you guys think this story is fake, you'd be wrong. I experienced this firsthand, and it was horrifying. The only reason you guys say it's fake is because you don't know how many things that seem fake actually happen. Everything happens eventually. Next we've got, entitled mom tries to skip the line, her son gets hurt, and she blames me. The characters in this story. We've got entitled mom, entitled Brad, me, nice girl, and nice mom. So, to set the scene, I work at a large clothing retail store that is 2 stories. The top floor, ladies wear. The bottom floor, kids wear, men's and home. It was a very busy Saturday, and we were very understaffed, which left me being the only person on the bottom floor. We have just brought in new Halloween apparel in the kids section, which had been placed on the right-hand side of the tills. So the tills are set up so that there are 2 on a long bench, about 2 meters apart from each other, so it is pretty clear if there is a line at one of the tills. As I am the only person working on the bottom floor, there's only one till open, and I am on the left side till. This is relevant. As I am serving a lady with a large number of clothes, a line starts to form, and I noticed a woman and her 4 boys checking out the Halloween section. The boys are fighting over who can dress up as a pumpkin, and the mother keeps screaming at them to
Shut up
and
hurry up.
I was already feeling the Karen vibes radiating from her, so was mentally preparing for her to have some sort of problem. By the time I had finished serving, the line had grown very long with only me being on the tills. The next in line was nice girl and nice mom, who smiled at me, and just as they went to put their items down, the Karen erupts.
Excuse me? Are you really going to just ignore me? I've been waiting for 10 minutes.
First of all, she had been in the Halloween section, not in line, and she had not been there for 10 minutes. Me. Sorry, I didn't see you in line for this till. Entitled mom.
Excuse me? Is this not a till?
Pointing to the right side till, the one that, I'm not using. Me. Sorry, that till is not open, as I cannot use both tills at the same time. Shouldn't have to explain that to a grown Karen, but Entitled mom.
Does that matter? I've clearly been waiting here longer than these people. It's so rude of you to just ignore me.
Me. Sorry, I thought you were looking at the Halloween clothes, not in line.
That doesn't matter. I've been standing by the tills.
The nice girl and nice mom, who were in front, luckily gave me a sympathetic smile and let the Karen and her spawns cut in front just so I could get them out of the way. It takes the store I work in quite a while to serve people, as almost everything is security tagged, so we have to take them off each item and then take off the coat hangers. As I am detagging the Karen's items, one of her spawns is interested in the magnet detagger. For those who haven't taken any of these certain types of security tags, they look like little UFOs, with one side having a very sharp needle that goes through the clothes and into the other side of the tag. So to remove them, we press the tag on this magnet that separates the pin from the tag. If you've worked with these, you'd know how much trouble they are and how often the pin slips and goes into your finger. Very painful. The little spawn points at it and asks me if he can untag one. I have to say no, as it's slightly dangerous and it would be my fault if the spawn pricked himself. Me. No, sorry, I can't let you do that. I will get in trouble. Entitled Brad.
Mummy, I want to do one.
Entitled Mom.
You've already held us up enough. Just let him do one. You won't get in trouble. You're the only one here.
Me. I'm sorry, but the security tags have a pin in them that pops out when you detag them, and he could hurt his finger. So it's a safety thing. Entitled brat.
Only dumb people would prick themselves.
The entitled mom rolls her eyes at me, and I continue detagging. Just as I only have a few more items to go, entitled brat snatches one of the items and begins slamming the security tag onto the magnet like a little lunatic. I ask him to stop touching it, and then try to grab his hand, not hard, so he doesn't hurt himself. Of course, this sets Karen off.
Don't you dare touch my son. Just let him do one.
Just as she finishes screeching at me, her spawn begins wailing. And what do I see? His grubby little hand bleeding with the pin stuck in it. The Karen starts going ballistic at the little brat, and then starts screaming at me that it's my fault that this happened, all while leaving her crap at the tills and dragging out her little spawns while yelling. No, the line didn't clap. Sorry for the mistakes, was in a rush writing it. We'll answer any questions as there might be a lack of info. Next we've got entitled mom tries to snatch my orange juice even though there's clearly enough in stock. Hey everyone, time for me to post some entitled parent story that happened recently. Blah blah blah, I'm on mobile. I live in a small town, which despite its rather below average size and population is pretty well known around the area and has a decent amount of stores in it. I recently got my first job as a private tutor for English and got paid for the first time last Thursday, a whopping 20 euros, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's my first self-earned money. A few days later, I decided I'd use my money for some celebratory grocery shopping, since our fridge was looking a little empty, and I could smuggle some chocolate along the way. Near where I live, there are two big stores right next to each other. We'll call them Good Store and Cheap Store, as the Good Store was essentially bigger and had more items, and Cheap Store generally cheaper. Knowing to spend my money well, I go to Cheap Store and head through the aisles. I grab the stuff I needed. Everything fine so far aside from a kid screaming about not being allowed to have a certain type of cereal. Then I head to the drink aisle, browsing it for my favorite orange juice. I look down the entire shelf of orange juice and see it. 100% orange juice, right next to its inferior cousin, 50% orange juice. It was the last bottle. The cast. We've got me. We've got entitled kid, entitled mom, and worker. I bend down to grab the bottle, but as I'm picking it up, I inspect it quickly to check if it's actually 100%, as the bottles literally look the same. But then it happens. A kid sprints at me full force while I'm inspecting the bottle, jumps up, and tries to snatch it from me. I get spooked and try to shake him off. He's hanging from my arm with one hand while trying to pull the bottle with the other. Once I noticed it was a kid, about 4 or 5, I try to gently place him on the floor, then rip the bottle out of his grasp. I succeed. Me. Buddy, you can't just nab something from someone, especially a grown-up. Entitled kid. But I want it. Me. Well, I would have given it to you if you would have asked nicely. Maybe you'll learn something from this. Needless to say, I wasn't lying. I would have been fine with any other orange juice. This one was just my favorite. Also, needless to say, I wasn't mad or aggressive in any way. Just another failed attempt at parenting. He doesn't know better, I thought to myself as he stomped off. I carry on my shopping adventure with the bottle in my bag, poking out the top. As I stood in front of an aisle, I hear someone yell from a distance.
Excuse me, kiddo.
I turn around and see a Karen. Me. Huh? Entitled mom.
How dare you steal from a child?
I did what now?
Don't you try to deny it, you lying piece of crap. My son came to me and said you stole his orange juice from him. He's a good boy.
Ma'am, your son is the liar here. He was the one trying to steal from me.
What the heck? You're so pathetic. First you shove my kid, steal his juice, and now you're calling my little angel a liar? Oh, I will have you thrown out of this store for a lifetime.
Me. Listen, I did nothing wrong. Just get some other orange juice. There's plenty on the shelves. Or buy one from Good Store. They have this one in stock, I reckon. Entitled mom.
You jerk! My child doesn't want a different orange juice. and I won't walk all the way over to Goods Store for one dang item.
Note that the stores aren't even 30 seconds apart from each other. Me. Whatever. If you'll excuse me, I turn around to head to a different aisle. Suddenly, I hear quick steps coming towards me and feel a pull on my bag. That woman was actually trying to snatch the orange juice from my bag. I turn around while reaching for her hand, grabbing it and pulling it away. Entitled Mom.
Assault! Help!
Me. BS. A worker comes by. Worker. What seems to be the problem? Entitled Mom furiously makes up how I randomly attacked her without any reason and demands I pay her 50 euros and be banned from the store. Me, on the other hand, calmly explained the real story, how the kid first tried to steal from me, then her. Entitled Mom.
What a liar!
She then shoves me backwards, making me topple into the shelves behind me, while she is still screaming at me. The worker gets very upset, pulls her back, and points out a security camera. Worker. You listen here. It seems like you're the assailant, and we definitely have enough video evidence to prove the boy's story. You will either get out of our store, or I will call the authorities. Karen leaves the store with her kid, probably because she knows this is a losing battle for her. The worker helps me up and gives me a coupon for immediate usage. He also promised to always keep that specific orange juice in stock from now on. Firstly, so I won't have to deal with another Karen, and secondly, because it's some darn good orange juice. Next we've got, we don't work here anymore. I used to work for a special repair company. We would have customers bring us boards to rebuild all the time. Public interest for the items we fixed went down, mainly because they were not needed and very expensive. The company went under overnight. All the tools and parts were left in the building. Almost a year later, a buddy of mine says he bought the contents of a building site unseen and asked me to take a look because he recognized some of the equipment being similar to what I have in my home shop. I end up riding with him, no clue where we are going, and end up at my old workplace. We are there for about an hour looking through everything, checking what current market values are, and just looking at what all was there. It's been almost a year. We are about to call it a day when someone knocks at the door. Oops, I forgot, the open sign is hardwired into the lights. My buddy goes to the door, and I recognize the guy. He was a regular, has about 20 high-end wine coolers in his basement, and would bring us crates full of boards to repair, so he had spares to swap out if one ever failed, and they fail frequently. We've got the old customer, we've got Buddy, and we've got me. Old customer. Thank God you're back in business. I have 2 coolers down and no spares. I lost a lot of my collection. Buddy. What? Me. He's a wine collector. He has massive wine coolers in his basement. The boards burn up constantly. He was a frequent customer. Old customer. Great. It's the same tech. The other place I've been going to has an idiot for a tech. Buddy. Sorry, dude. This place has been closed for a while. We don't work here. I just bought the contents. Old customer. What do you mean? He works here. I know he does. I've come here for years. The price was about $100 a board. I'm willing to pay more if parts are more expensive. Buddy. Dude, I have no clue what you're talking about. We are not a business. I just bought a bunch of random stuff at auction. I can hear wars going on. I can see in the guy's truck there are 2 crates of boards, probably 15 altogether. I pull my buddy aside. Me. We have the parts to rebuild what's in his truck. Each one will take me about 5 minutes. It's up to you, but it could be some quick cash if you got the time. Buddy. Okay. I go out and tell the guy I'll do it for the standard price this time, but the business is closed. If he needs any fixed in the future, I can do it out of my house, but the price may change. The guy got super excited, agreed, left the boards, his number, and went to eat until we called him back. About an hour and a half go by. I have all the boards done. It was 16 of them. I call the guy, he shows up. Old customer. How did it all go? Good? Me. Yup, they all test properly on the bench. As always, you will want to test as many as you can in the machine ASAP. I put my contact info in one of the crates. Total comes to $1,600. No. That price won't work. You guys went out of your way to do this, and you got it done in the same day. That's never happened before. He hands my buddy a bank bag. My buddy rifles through the stack of bills inside while I load the truck. I know the guy is a big tipper. He once paid me $200 just to stay an extra half hour to pick up his stuff. Buddy, there's $2,600 in here. I'm the only person that bid on this crap. I only paid $1,200. You already made back my money and then some. Needless to say, my shop got a bit of an upgrade that day, and my wallet got a tad bit heavier too.
So, Karen, what did you think of today's stories?
They were horrible.
Horrible? How dare you? These were some of the best we've ever read.
Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. It's ridiculous what people like myself have to go through. Dealing with stupid people like yourself and your subscribers.
Look, Karen, you can say whatever you want about me, but don't you talk about my re-army.
Re-army. Most of your viewers aren't even subscribed to your channel. 70% if I'm correct.
Well, I can't argue with that. That's true. Most of my viewers don't actually subscribe for some reason.
It's because you're stupid, Mr. Reddit.
No, I'm not. All right, guys, let's prove Karen wrong by making sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications.
They're not going to listen to you.
And if you'd like me, or Karen,
What?
to record a special message for you, come visit me on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.
Never.
And join as a channel member today, and Karen will give you a special shout out in the next video.
Like heck I will.
And shout outs to our Regenerals of the day, Atomi Fan, David, and Idzak.